Welcome back to week 3 of the post-Shriek Out reaction, and the theme for this week is, of course, films I really should have seen by now. No, it is actually viewer choice week, and this request is coming from Justin Rigsby, who brought up the fact that we have never really talked about any Hitchcock films. I think the closest we've ever come is that we did Psycho 2 for sequels week, which was like 2 years ago. Which doesn't really count. Doesn't really count. Hey buddy. So they suggested that we review The Birds, and I have actually never seen The Birds.
I haven't either, but I have seen scenes from
it. A lot of people have seen clips from it, which makes it one of those films that you think you've seen because, like, no, I know the things that happen in there. I thought that I had seen. I thought I had seen how this film ends. Long ago.
Oh, Peach!
Jeez,
oh my goodness!
Taking that jump.
That leap of faith.
I've got to do it. I've got to get in the big lap. Yeah, I thought I had like seen the high points of this film. No, I had not. I thought I had seen like how this film ends. Like, no, I have not seen the ending sequence of this film before, and I kind of hate what I'm going to say in this review. Because I'm about to come in here and praise the crap out of this movie. And I feel like Hitchcock is one of those directors that if you come in here and you say, oh my goodness, he is a master filmmaker, everybody's gonna look at you and go, well, no, duh. Like, it's so, like, if you ask somebody who's your favorite director and they throw out Hitchcock, everyone's gonna look at you like, oh, you're a fake movie nerd. Oh, you know.
It's like saying Citizen Kane is the best movie of all time.
It's such a safe answer that people are like, oh, wow, bold take on that. But whenever I hear people list out their favorite directors, I never hear anyone say Hitchcock. And man, as I was watching this film, it like slowly dawned on me, oh my god, I think Hitchcock might actually be one of my favorite directors. I've never said that before because, again, it's so safe. Like, nobody's favorite film is Citizen Kane. Nobody's. No, like, a few people would pick The Godfather, but like, it's one of those things that it's such a safe answer that everybody's gonna look at you as like, and, I don't care. Yeah, I feel like you don't even have to stop and like point out how great Hitchcock is, but as I was watching this, it slowly just kind of like sunk in, like, I do not give Hitchcock nearly enough respect because everybody talks about Psycho.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about Psycho and everybody talks about how good Psycho is. I personally, my favorite film from him is North by Northwest, but that one gets a good chunk of praise too. The Birds also gets a good chunk of praise, but as I was watching this, I was going, well, yeah, Hitchcock, he was big on horror. As I was watching this, it slowly kind of dawned on me, this is not Psycho. Psycho, it's a slow, like, psychological film. It's a murder mystery going on. This is an end-of-the-world apocalypse film loaded with special effects. Like, you don't think of this as being a special effects heavy film because it was made back in 1963. And back then, you know, green screens were barely a thing back then. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like nobody looks at this thing and thinks, oh yeah, this is a big special effects thing. But when you think by 1960s standards, today this would be like alien spacecrafts coming down across the entire United States all at once kind of thing. Like that is how big the special effects leap it is compared to that. Because I don't even think that sentence just made sense, but yeah, like the level of special effects used back then, that's the equivalent of it today. And you think about how, like, Jesus, Psycho, you know, just like this thing, this crime thriller about this lady stealing some money, then just goes to a hotel, then just this very quiet film starring this pretty much one guy for a large chunk of it. And then you compare it to this thing where it is the apocalypse happening. It is insane that the same guy made two films that were so different from each other, and yet the beats of it still hit so hard. And there's moments in here in which you're going to look at and you're going to think it's a little bit goofy because of maybe the special effects, or maybe it's just, you know, like, oh, a bird comes down and hits a lady in the head. Like, yeah, the very first time that a bird attacks our protagonist in here, I did look at it as like, oh wow, it's begun. All right, yeah. One bird came down and hit somebody. But just the way that this thing grows, it's it just makes your stomach sink watching some of these scenes. But the reason why all this stuff is effective is that Hitchcock is not afraid to get really deep with his humans in here. There was a moment in which I felt sick. I felt like I was going to throw up. And it's not because of any gore or anything, which, by the way, there is, for 1960s, there's a ton of gore in this film. It's not like by today's standards, but by 1960 standards, it's some really heavy-duty, like, disgusting stuff. There's a moment in which a lady goes into a house, and everything's quiet, everything's kind of broken in there, and she's just walking around slowly, and then she sees someone dead in the corner, and they just painted big black circles on his eyes, but it's meant to be that his eyes got pecked out. Yeah, exactly. And all I could think was, Jesus, if that was with today's, special effects, just walking in and just seeing somebody there in the corner with no eyes, just plucked completely out, that's what this was supposed to look like back in the early 60s, and you didn't really get movies like that back in the early 1960s. And it's wild to me that, again, you think back to Psycho and how they didn't even show the knife penetrating somebody because they wanted it all to be in the audience's head. Here, it's still all in the audience's head because you don't see birds actually plucking someone's eyes out, but you still look at that scene and it's so graphic by those standards. So I'm just trying to point out that, yeah, there are very different types of horror between Psycho and this film, but the human element of it is what makes it really disturbing. And as I said, there's a moment in which I started to feel sick to my stomach, and all it is just this family in a house, and they have boarded up the house completely, and they're in their intentions are running high, and they are just losing it with each other. And I could not look away from this scene. It stunned me watching this scene. It is so well done. And the performances in here are great. There is a little kid in here. She's meant to only be like 11 years old or something. And she is such a good actress in here. Which, I can't remember the actress's name, but I was looking everybody up, and she went on to be like a big star after this. Everybody in here was a big star. But there's a scene in which someone died, and they died protecting her, like shoving her inside the house to get her away from the birds. And there's a moment in which she is just crying her eyes out, explaining what happened. And it is child crying. It is that crying where they're inhaling after everything they say. And it's like, oh my God, it feels so real. I feel so bad for this kid right now. They just sold it so perfectly. And yeah, that scene in which you see the person who died, again, it is not like some kind of like, oh, heroic, like, oh, I did. They are sprawled out on the ground, face down, their leg up like on a stair. It is a very natural, like lifeless fell on the ground pose. Nothing heroic about, just completely like, this is what happens when someone gets plucked to death by birds. And that's one of the things that, again, just made this hit so hard, is that you might look at the idea of, oh, a bunch of birds attacking people, like, how is that going to be frightening? But the fact that nobody, because it's just pure chaos, nobody gets, like, hero moments in here. Nobody really gets moments to be like, I know how to save the day. It's like, no, you can't stop that. And so, yeah, that just makes this feel so much more dramatic and so much bigger. In fact, there's moments in here in which they stop to like just really lay out how big this actually is going to be. And this was the scene in which it really hit me that this is an apocalypse film, is what this is. There's a scene in which, because the birds aren't attacking all the time, they kind of come and then they go, and then they come and then they go. And there's a moment in which they're gone for a moment, and they're all in this diner, and this old lady comes in who gives one of the best performances in the entire film, and she's only here for this scene. But this old lady comes in and goes, birds attacking people, that's absolutely preposterous. They wouldn't do such a thing like that. How would you know? I'll have you know that ornithology is one of my passions. I think ornithology is the study of birds.
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. I'll have you know that that is one of my passions, and I am very studied in all of this. And she starts laying out, like, well, I saw crows and seagulls attacking people. That would never happen. Crows and seagulls would never actually attack each other. And then there's other people going, no, they attack me, they attack me. What we need to just take some guns and just get rid of them all. And she just goes, oh, that wouldn't happen at all. You see, it is roughly estimated that there are 50 billion birds inside of America alone. It's like, holy crap. And like, she is just laying out, if the birds ever did decide to wage war on humans, there's nothing at all that we could possibly do. And just the way of like, she's like, no. Any question that you, the audience, is having right now, I'm going to lay out for you how that would happen. And that diner scene is amazing because every single thing that someone says raises the tension from the last thing that someone said. Like, there is this mother with their children over there, and they're going, can you all please keep your voices down? You are scaring the children. And then, like, people keep talking, and another guy says, oh, this happened to me over my boat. Please, the children, just think about that. And another person talks about this, and then she says, like, I'm sorry, can someone tell me the quickest way to San Francisco? And says, oh, well, and then some guy who's got a drink over there goes, oh, well, I'm about to go that direction myself. Just follow me. Great, can we leave as soon as I finish my drink? So this lady who you know is about to snap is now in there, but she's got to wait for this guy to finish his drink, and everybody else keeps talking, so now when they're talking, you know she's getting pushed even further. That sequence is amazing to me. And watching that, I'm gonna be real with you guys, as good as this film is, I could actually see people remaking this. Like, as I was watching this, there's certain scenes in here that they're great, they are amazing, but I looked at it and went, you know what? I know of a couple modern day directors, and I've seen a couple modern day horror films that could do a premise like this, but still give it but could still shoot it differently in a way that would capture the terror in a different way. You could make a but you could make a reboot of this film today in a way that captures it in a different light, so that the original still stands on its own, but you create something new and special that's terrifying in its own way today. So I would be interested in seeing like a potential reboot of this, even though I did absolutely love this film. But watching that sequence in there of just all the people from within the town talking about this, I kind of want to see someone turn this into a TV show. Because just seeing all the people in this town, I would love to see not just the one person that we're following in this town and the like person who she's hooking up with and their whole thing they have going on. Rather than just seeing that, I'd love to see like everybody in this town, like all their little things, and like have like this sequence be like everybody from the town that we've been following this entire season all coming together, kind of addressing the stuff that's going on. And there's other elements in here that I feel kind of get rushed or don't get fleshed out as much as they should. Like, our protagonist is this lady who she's not from this town. She's just going there because of this whole weird situation she got into, in which she wants to go and visit this guy who she found there, which they end up developing a relationship. And I will come in here and say, excuse me, I've been talking too much, I inhaled too much air, that was disgusting. I will just come in here and say, one of my problems with this film is the relationship between these two. It's not like they don't have chemistry with each other, but the reason they hook up is 100% just we're both the leading man and leading lady of this film. Of course we're going to hook up, so they hook up. The moment in which they kiss, I actually had to rewind twice. And like, I was just like, okay, I'll go back 10 minutes. No, not really soon. I'll go back 20 minutes now. No, not really soon. Like, it kind of happens. And like, I mean, it's not like they don't have scenes with each other. It's not like there isn't some kind of chemistry there, but when they kind of kiss, it's just kind of like, oh, I guess we're just here now. All right, I guess they're just making out because they're just the leading couple of this film. All right, sure. So yeah, that's one thing that could definitely be done better. But there's another moment in which, like I said, this lady, she's from out of town, and this is a small town. She gets there, and this one lady, after there's this huge bird attack, just goes, this didn't happen until you came here. I think that you brought this to us. You're evil. And I just kept thinking, that would be a great storyline to follow. Of like the entire town being wary of her because none of this stuff happened until she arrived. That's something we could explore, and you don't really get to explore that. Again, maybe I actually think this could be a pretty good TV show. Let's see. Anything else that I want to go into? Oh, I will say this. This is something that I know some people are going to love. It wasn't really my favorite thing about this. There is no score to this. None. There is no music, no nothing. And I get the reason behind doing that. Because they wanted to feel more realistic, and also because birds are noisy. Mm-hmm. So they kind of want, when the birds come around, they want that to just drown everything else out. And I get that. I totally get why you want to do that. And I totally get why some people would applaud that. And they think that's a great thing about this film. There's a lot of moments in here in which I looked at it and went, this would be more effective if there was a really good score in this film. if there was a really good, like, even just a very low, ominous score, like something that you barely even notice, would enhance this so much more. Again, I understand why they were going for that, and I understand why other people would like it. To me, I would rather there have been something in here. Because, yeah, like, when everybody's getting attacked by the birds, I get that, the whole thing of it being drowned out. But then there's other moments where, like, just a flurry of birds coming. Like, there's this one sequence in there where it's after the first big bird attack, and they're all inside the house, and they're talking about what the hell was that? Why would any of this happen? And then there's moments they just look, and one woman is just looking, and she sees a little bird over by the fireplace, and goes, Mitch? And then, like, the moment that she recognizes it's there, just a ton of birds come pouring in, flying through the entire thing. And it wasn't really frightening to me, it was more jarring, and I just thought, you know, like, just a very slow little bit of music building up to a big blast of sound. Like, that would have had a little bit more effect on me. I will also say, I would be really interested in finding out how many of the birds in here were real and how many of them were fake, because there's moments in which you see people reaching for things and birds are just snapping at them, and I was like, okay, that's gotta be puppets, but then the closer I looked at it, I was like, no, the way their heads are twisting and snapping them, that actually looks like birds. It looks like many birds actually snapping at this person's hand.
I'm also wondering how many birds got injured or killed during this movie.
Yeah. I would not be shocked. I thought what you were actually going to say was I would be interested in finding out how much shit there was all over this.
That too. Birds shit a lot.
There was a moment,
honestly, that's my biggest fear of birds, is just getting shat all over.
You guys want to know why I wear hats so much? It's because I living in New York, I've had pigeon shit on me too many times. I'm like, nope. And I once had like a hat save my life at one point because I had this terrible eye infection, like to the point where I could barely keep the eye open and it just burned so bad. And then a bird shit right there, right where my eye is. And if it was not for the brim of the hat I was wearing, then this horrible infection I had would have become 1,000 times worse. And I'm like, I don't even know if I would have kept my eye after that. I don't know if any amount of antibiotics would have been able to combat that duo of combination. So yeah, that's something you definitely have to think about living in this city. But yeah, there's a sequence at the end of this in which you just see like more birds than you could imagine all around this house. And I couldn't help it. All I could think was, how on earth is there just not shit everywhere? But which I'm glad that they made sure to keep that stuff clean, because it would have taken some of the tension out of this. That's another thing that I got to mention about this. I love that there is never any explanation behind any of this, which makes it just so much more ominous. Why are the birds attacking? Why do they all work together? Why are they only kind of attacking in pairs now? This film, it honestly kind of reminded me of The Happening if The Happening was done well.
Like, I always had this theory that, like, the birds got fed up with, like, humans, like, destroying their environment and, like, taking them in as pets when they should be free.
There is a moment in which the old lady in the diner, she starts going, the ones you really need to be worried about are humans. Yes, humans are tearing everything apart. And we mentioned when we talked about Species last week, no, that was 2 weeks ago, about how the 90s was that time in which every single movie had to stop and go, is man really the enemy? Are we the ones really tearing everything apart? This was really ahead of its time for the 1960s to go, yeah, like man, we're kind of ruining society.
Well, the 1960s and 70s was like the big, the green movement, like that's when Earth Day was invented and everything.
That is true. But still, you didn't see a lot of that in films. Which, by the way, there's a thing in here in which they are talking about these birds attacking, and they say, yeah, something like that happened a year ago. All these birds just kind of went nuts and just all attacked this town. If memory serves me correct, it's been a long time since I looked up trivia on this film, but memory serves me correct, that was an actual thing. This film actually came out after there was like a bird attack that no one could explain that attacked like this entire town. And apparently and that's what they're actually referencing in this film. So that is just really creepy to just throw that in here all of a sudden. It reminded me of a lot of more modern films where like based on true headlines kind of things, and then they'll stop and go, well, you know, a year ago this thing happened in that place, and then the audience goes, oh yes, I remember that thing. So yeah, that was actually kind of impressive. I thought that they
but yeah, that's why like this movie is so disturbing. Is like how realistic it can be.
Which again, the no sound, the no score thing. I get that adds to that. And yeah, Hitchcock, he is not afraid to just let you sit there in silence and just let that tension build up. There is an amazing sequence in here in which they're worried about this little girl who is at the school. So our protagonist, she goes out there to school to check on him. She pokes her head in, and she looks around and is like, okay, everybody seems fine. And the teacher waves her and goes, all right, just one man. And then they're all singing this song. I don't remember the song, but they're all singing it. And so she goes outside to have a smoke. And as she's out there, one bird just comes down, lands on the jungle gym. And then another one lands down, and another one. And then she looks back there and is like, okay, there's a couple birds there, which she's kind of okay with it. This is only after the first big bird attack. But even I would have been like, one big bird attack is kind of too much. I'd be kind of hesitant already about this. But it's not until she like looks back and now like the entire jungle gym is filled with birds. And the music is, and the kids, there's no score in this, there's no music, but the kids are singing along to this, and the kids singing are building up that tension. It's great that like Hitchcock just like lets you sit there as these birds are just slowly coming in. Like I said, I know it is a basic ass thing to say that Hitchcock was a master of suspense, but yeah, he was. It's like you have to just come in here and say it again.
And like I said, this is realistic because like there are some scenarios that have like where something like this would happen. Like migrating birds, they would like just stop and there'd be like thousands of them sitting around and screaming.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And then the birds attacking reminds me of like the magpies in Australia where they would like attack kids. They would attack.
I heard about that.
Yeah, no, it's like during like when they're trying to. When they're laying their eggs and everything, they want to protect them, so they will like literally attack any human they see near them. So yeah, so it's like this movie isn't really all that far off from the truth.
Yeah, which by the way, there is a whole sequence there of like, man, the sequence after that when our protagonist finally learns like, oh yeah, there's a lot of birds there. She goes in, she tells the teacher about it, and then the teacher just goes, all right, we're going to demonstrate now how well we can conduct a fire drill. And just seeing how calm the teacher is trying to be, and all the kids are like, why do we have to do that? We don't want to. And the teacher's trying to be so calm, but she just lays out for them, I want you all to then go, and anybody who lives nearby, head directly home. And everybody else, when I say to run, run. And just how calm she is trying to be as she is telling them, you're about to have to run for your life. Man, it's so incredibly... It just makes you really appreciate everyone's performances in here. And it makes the situation seem, again, realistic because, yeah, teachers are trained in, like, okay, in a fire emergency in this, you want to relax, you want to be able to, like, conduct yourself like this. And you can tell that that's how she's trying to conduct herself. But also it makes you like these characters more because you know she's freaking out about this too. But you also like that she's not trying to sugarcoat too much for the kids. Yeah, I think this film is great. Like I said, I really enjoyed every single one of the actors in here. My only real complaint with the actors is that I think that the man and the woman hook up pretty much just because they're the leading characters. Like, they don't really seem to even make, like, a big deal out of the fact that they are now, like, a couple. It just kind of, like, happens.
Any spoiler talk, or?
Not really, no. I would definitely recommend everybody going out and checking this out. I really, again, I gotta give it up to the little girl in here, too, because I was talking about the crying scene was so good. This whole thing starts with our protagonist bringing to Mitch, this guy that she met, these two lovebirds because of this whole situation that happened in the beginning of the film. And the little girl loves the lovebirds, and like there's moments in which she's like, can't we let the lovebirds out? They haven't done anything wrong to anybody. And just seeing like how much the little kid cares about these birds despite the situation they're in, like there was a moment in which they've got to get out of there, and she's thinking about the lovebirds. And yeah, in a normal film, you might look at that and be like, kid, leave the freaking birds behind. This is not the time that. But like the way that she plays it it again kind of like makes you think about like, yeah, this is a little kid. She's had a traumatic thing happen and she cares about this thing, and this is kind of like a security blanket, but also it's meant to be like a depiction of like the innocence of youth. Like, she doesn't, everybody in that diner wanted to kill all the birds. She's like, no, these birds didn't do anything bad. And yeah, so you kind of like were like, yeah, save the lovebirds in there. And man, it's amazing that this movie was able to make you
I'm just imagining like the kid being spared because she let the lovebirds free.
Like, again, there's no explanation for why any of this stuff is happening. But I mean, like, you do have that thought at one point, like, what would happen if you just let the lovebirds free? Would they be all right? Would they survive? Would all the birds just go away if you let the lovebirds leave? Like, what would happen then? Is everything gonna be okay then? Yeah, it's great how this film kind of makes you think about like what could be causing this, but there's never enough information for you to even come close to an answer on this. Yeah, if you've never seen this, Hitchcock, Master of Suspense, for a reason. This film is really damn good. But thank you guys very much for tuning in. Tomorrow we go back to our last of the Patreon requests. Then the day after that, we have the last of the YouTube request. And then the week after that is our final theme week for Thorgiween. So make sure that you come back for that. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And as always, happy Halloween. Look at the camera, Peach. Look at the camera. Look.
Say bye.
She's not going to do anything.
Oh, Peach, you're too busy looking at us. You don't even know what a camera is.
You guys were talking about birds for way too long, not about dogs.